Facebook friend of mine that, before I was deplatformed, of course, that was nice enough to take the time to comment on one of my videos about how to extend human lifespan, which I'll leave a link to. He happens to be a believer in the sect of Christianity known as Christian Science. And I don't judge people for their religious beliefs. I am not a particularly religious person myself, but I accept people for their religious beliefs. However, what I want to point out, Christian scientists do not enjoy the same longevity benefits as Seventh-day Adventists. Also, neither do other sects of Christianity. Okay? So, a long-term study of graduates from two religious colleges found higher death rate among the Christian Scientist group whose religion opposes medical treatment. Federal health officials said the 1945 to 1983 study involved the graduating classes of the Christian Science-affiliated Principia College in Elisha, Illinois, and Loma Linda University in Loma Linda, California, a Seventh-day Adventist institution. The doctrines of both schools require abstinence from alcohol consumption and smoking. However, Christian Scientists reject medical healing in favor of spiritual healing alone, whereas Seventh-day Adventists accept both spiritual and medical healing, said the Federal Centers for Disease Control, which conducted the study. Seventh-day Adventists are also required to abstain from eating certain foods, such as pork and shellfish. In addition, the church recommends a vegetarian diet that limits the consumption of meat, poultry, or fish to less than once per week. The Christian Scientist-affiliated college did not require similar dietary restrictions. During the 39-year period, a total of 2,421 men and 2,669 women graduated from Principia College, or PC, and 5,010 men and 3,788 women graduated from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Loma Linda University. Overall mortality was higher for the Principia College graduates than the Loma Linda University graduates. For men, 40 per 1,000 and 22 per 1,000 respectively, and for women, 27 per 1,000 and 12 per 1,000 respectively. The CDC said one drawback of the study was that it did not look at the death rate for comparable graduates from non-religious colleges. Robert Hom, an epidemiologist which would most likely be very similar for non-religious colleges, it would probably be very similar to the Christian Scientists. Robert Hom, an epidemiologist with the CDC, said the study was primarily aimed at determining whether rejection of medical healing in favor of spiritual healing influenced the death rate in a population group. The CDC researcher conceded the dietary habits of Seventh-day Adventists are associated with lower risks for several chronic diseases. However, another study 2 years ago comparing mortality of Christian Scientist graduates with those from the University of Kansas also found a higher rate for Christian Scientists, he said. I would assume it wouldn't be that drastic, though. Although because a lot of the chronic health conditions are caused by diet, which is, similar between Christian Scientists and the general population. Previous reports have described differences in health status and disease patterns in religious groups in the United States. CDC said, a love letter to my mom. Okay, that has nothing to do with this. My point here is that faith alone does not save you. Okay, the average age of Catholic priests in the United States has risen from 35 to 63 in 2009. Not really that great. Realistic evaluation, meaningfulness is key, blah, blah, blah. My point here is that the lifespan of Catholic priests is not particularly high, assuming that Catholic priests believe, that they're religious believers and they have faith. Faith is not what's saving people, is my point. Is it religion or lifestyle? Two recent best-selling books, God is Not Great and The God Delusion, have rekindled the debate, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care about any of that. In longevity studies, lifestyle differences between religious and non-religious people are particular neither to the United States nor to contemporary times. A puckish research letter to the Journal of American Geriatric Society documented that despite their vast wealth of power, Chinese emperors, though history averaged 25 years, shorter lives than humble Buddhist monks, primarily because of the monks' lower rates of heavy drinking and sexual profligacy. It is probable, however, that the emperors grew better through better parties. Religious involvement offers emotional comfort in times of crisis, yada yada yada. Another key benefit of religiosity is described differently by different faiths, but could generally be referred to as a sense of subjective peace. Remember what I said, in trust in God, the Seventh-day Adventist tenet, the law of health, trust in God. It's not so much trusting in God as understanding that you're not God. I'm not a particularly religious person, so for me, it's just realizing I'm not God. I have a limit to what I can control, and I have to understand that, and I can't overstretch myself. In light of these findings on religiosity and longevity, do non-believers have a prayer of helping, pun intended, I believe, of hoping to one day bankrupt the Social Security system? Obviously, non-religious people can avoid addictive substances, eat a heart-friendly diet, and build rich social networks. They can also adapt the religiosity-oriented practice of meditation to secular use and randomized clinical trials. Non-religiously oriented meditation has been shown, among other benefits, to increase immune response as well as activity in part of the brain associated with positive emotions. If you want to learn how to meditate, Lawrence Lishon's simple short book of the same name has gone through dozens of printings, so you can buy a copy for a few bucks from most online booksellers. So I looked at this before with you folks. This was in How to Extend Lifespan Really, and I'm going to leave a link to that video, I think. Nutrition, the dangers of meat eating and dairy products. The following list of common complaints can be directly linked to the consumption of meat and dairy products: hives, sinusitis, heart disorders. This is from Ellen G. White's book. I would like people to read this. Sugar, exercise. The point that I'm making here is the reason that Adventists enjoy the longer life than the average person is not because they are religious, okay? Their religion is why they live longer, because their religion encourages the embrace of these things: nutrition, exercise, water, meaning hydration, sunshine, temperance, and the avoidance of alcohol. Temperance to a Seventh-day Adventist is the avoidance of alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, and other addictive substances, just so people understand what temperance means. Fresh air, rest, trust in God, again, gratitude, rejoicing, benevolence, trust in God's love and care. So it's not necessarily faith, it's realizing that you are not God, that you can have peace in the fact that you are not God. Okay, so I want people to understand that. When my friends that were gerontologists were touting the benefits of Seventh-day Adventism and the Seventh-day Adventist diet, not even the lifestyle, it was smart of me, I think, to go back and look at what Ellen G. White actually said, because this is a whole lifestyle. If you're going to live the Blue Zone lifestyle, learn about Adventism, because it is the most comprehensive Blue Zone. This is a model for all the other Blue Zones. This is Blue Zone living long prior to the Blue Zone study. Okay, so keep that in mind. I did a video on John Harvey Kellogg's Biologic Living ways back. I'm going to do another one because John Harvey Kellogg, the health reformer, the doctor, is a wonderfully great inspiration to me. I found out about him by finding out about Ellen G. White, and I'm obviously going to do a video on Ellen G. White also. Kellogg's story is inextricably linked with the beginnings of Seventh-day Adventist, formerly the Sabbatarian Adventists, a religious movement developed in the wake of the Great Disappointment. That was because the end times didn't come or whatever. As a youth in Battle Creek, Michigan, Kellogg was chosen by Ellen White, co-founder of the Seventh-day Adventists, as her de facto son. The Whites opened a health center in part in response to the continued dominance of heroic medicine, a system of healing based in Galen's humoral system. Heroic medicine often involved the use of corrosive medicines and bloodletting healing practices, which were viewed with horror by the Whites and many of their American contemporaries. Hydrotherapy or the water cure gained in popularity in response to the aggressive methods of heroic medicine. God's great medicine, water, pure, soft water for disease, for health, for cleanliness, for luxury, from Health by Ellen G. White. White viewed the health reform as a paramount factor in salvation. She believed that illness, meat eating, and sexual excess were the tripartite blight inflicted upon humanity after the transgression of Adam and Eve. The millenarian views of Seventh-day Adventists strongly informed this preoccupation with health reform and purity of the body. If the millennium was fast approaching, as they believed, how better to translate into Christ's kingdom than with a clean, receptive mind facilitated by the proper maintenance of its vessel. As that other gentleman that wrote that book, Nature's Eternal Religion, said, a clean mind in a clean body, in a clean society, in a clean environment. These principles inform the creation of the Western Health Reform Institute, a place where the application of drugs would only come after attempts at healing the body through nature, that is, the water, air, light, heat, food, sleep, rest, recreation, etc. Each visitor would be inculcated with the principles of right living, and all would be welcome regardless of religious denomination. After being trained as a medical doctor, Kellogg assumed leadership at the White's Temple of Health, later renamed the Battle Creek Sanitarium, a word coined by Kellogg himself and often referred to simply as the SAN. The facility offered hydrotherapy, heat and light therapies, promoted calisthenics, and served a strict vegetarian diet influenced by Graham's dietary principles. Kellogg worked indefatigably, I will have to look that word up, at the SAN, putting in 18-hour days without visible signs of wear. Among his many efforts was the attempt to discredit the 19th century cult of female invalidism, which taught that women were inherently of weaker physical faculties than their male counterparts. In response, women at the SAN were encouraged to exercise and shed their overly restrictive garments in favor of loose clothes. The SAN could hardly keep up with demand from visitors and was therefore ever expanding, physically necessitating at 1,100 workers to keep the institution in working order. To ensure the highest quality of food, 400 acres were annexed to facilitate the development of fruit orchards, a dairy farm, and vegetable production. Each guest room enjoyed electricity, an advanced ventilation system to ensure clean air, as well as hot and cold running water. Kellogg incorporated his ideas for health into a total system he termed biologic living. The philosophy drew its essential inspiration from the belief in the intimate relationship between body and morality. And I want to point this out. This is honestly what I believe. Our morality, our religious morality, our religious ideas about avoidance of, like, for example, homosexuality and things of this nature, this is because this is based in naturalistic observation. Abstinence from certain foods, abstinence from certain behaviors promote health. Or I should say, avoid illness. Engaging in certain other behaviors, eating certain foods, doing certain other behaviors promote health. Certain things are sinful, therefore, and certain things are not. This was based on naturalistic observation, and these are universal truths throughout many religions. I believe this is I believe that religion at its heart is based in nature. And I believe that nature is God. I believe in pantheism, but I'm going to get into that later. He favored amending the thought of medical secretarians such as Graham, with concentration on the development of medical science. Like many of the Christian physiologists of the time, he preached a lifestyle void of meat and caffeine, and even advocated eliminating eggs and dairy. His approach was not only about the health of humans, but the well-being of all animals. Okay, instead, Kellogg emphasized a diet rich in fresh fruits, whole grains, a lifestyle with ample fresh air, and regular exercise. Okay, a diet rich in fresh fruits, okay, fresh foods, whole grains, and a lifestyle with ample fresh air and regular exercise, and void of sexual excess and masturbation. He was a little crazy about the whole masturbation thing, but that's what few mistakes he made up for by being way ahead of his time in other ways. To the modern mind, Kellogg and Graham's aggressive denunciations of masturbation and sexual excess are pure misguided. I believe they were too. The vehemence which these men and their contemporaries levied against what we consider today to be healthy and normal aspect of human blah blah. But I will argue again and again that the views of the past, which concentrate on what abhors us today, which retroactively apply the principles and attitude of today to those of the past. Let's also keep in mind that this is a lifestyle. This lifestyle that he promoted of fresh foods, whole grains, and a lifestyle of ample fresh air. This promotes life. Okay. So if we label Kellogg and Graham as saying, my point is this is why Adventists enjoy increased lifespan. It's not because of faith, it's because their faith is unique and their faith promotes health and healing. So I'll also be doing a whole video on Bernard McFadden, but as for now, I'm not going to do that. I was looking for his religion of cosmetarianism, although it's harder to find, and I couldn't find it too well. So I wanted to point out that this is a gentleman that he founded his own religion called cosmetarianism, amongst other things. And I'm going to explain where pantheism comes in when one is looking toward a healthful religion to enjoy a healthful lifestyle. But he was born in Missouri. McFadden changed blah, 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 blah. He started exercising, again, with dumbbells, walking up to 6 miles a day with a lead weight in his clothes. And he became a vegetarian. He quickly regained his previous health. Okay? So he was given a bad something or other. And it turned out that he made himself healthy again through vegetarianism and exercise. Publishing and writings, McFadden founded Physical Culture magazine in 1899, pulp magazines, health advocacy. McFadden popularized the practice of fasting that previously had been associated with illnesses such as anorexia nervosa. He felt strongly that fasting was one of the surest ways to physical health. Many of his subjects would fast for a week in order to rejuvenate their body. He claimed that a person could exercise unqualified control over virtually all types of disease while revealing a degree of strength and stamina such as would put others to shame through fasting. I'm not a faster. I don't agree with fasting, but I'll get into that in later videos. He saw fasting as an instrument with which to prove a man's superiority over other men. McFadden had photographs of himself taken before and after fast to demonstrate their positive effects on the body. For example, one photograph showed McFadden lifting a 100-pound dumbbell over his head immediately after a 7-day fast. Well, he was a very strong person. McFadden established many healthatoriums in the eastern and midwestern states. These institutions offered educational programs such as the Physical Culture Training School. This is very important. This dude literally basically created physical culture as we understand it. He gained notoriety for his views on sexual behavior. He viewed, and this is important too, because I agree with this, he viewed intercourse as a healthy activity and not solely a procreative one. This was a different attitude than most physicians had at the time. He also attempted to found a physical culture city in Monroe Township, Middlesex County, New Jersey, which folded after a few years and became the vacation cabin neighborhood and later suburban development of Outcalt. Nicknamed Body Love McFadden by Time, a moniker he detested, he was branded a kook and a charlatan by many. Now, he was branded a kook and a charlatan, but let's see, he was born in 1868 and lived until 1955. 87 years. That's pretty darn good for that time period. So, branding him a kook for his vegetarianism, here we go, this is briefly. McFadden made an unsuccessful attempt to found a religion, cosmotarianism, based on physical culture. He claimed that his regime would enable him to reach the age of 150. Other enterprises. At the peak of his career, he owned several hotels and major building in Danville, blah, blah, blah. His McFadden Foundation established 2 boarding schools for young boys and girls in Westchester County, New York. The McFadden School, blah, blah, blah. What's funny is the gentleman actually did end up dying of a urinary tract infection, which is very sad. Yeah, because he refused medical treatment. McFadden died in 1955 after refusing medical treatment for a digestive disorder. He is interred in Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York City. Upon his death, Edward Longstreet Bowden became the president of the Bernard McFadden Foundation. It's quite sad because he had... See, and this is another reason. Seventh-day Adventists do not shun medical science. They embrace medical science. I think it's very important to embrace medical science. I really do. I really think people need to understand that medical science is life-saving, especially when used judiciously, and life-improving when used judiciously. And I'm going to continue. I thought this was humorous. I found McFadden on a website called Kook Science, which I guess is like a Wikipedia for what they consider kooks. But I want to, for example, he was born Bernard Adolphus McFadden, died at 87, occupation publisher, nationality American, affiliations McFadden Publications, Bernard McFadden, Now, this is why I got this. His books are very good. McFadden's Encyclopedia of Physical Culture, McFadden's System of Physical Training, McFadden's Physical Training, The Virile Powers of Superb Manhood, Strong Eyes, Strength from Eating, Building of Vital Power, The Olympian System, Science of Divine Healing with Key to Health and Happiness, The Cosmotarian Gospel. I've had a lot of difficulty finding that one. I'd like to, but I can't seem to find it. Magazine's Physical Culture Magazine. Okay, and I thought that was a very interesting thing. Very humorous that it was in Kook Science, though. They like to call people kooks, but this guy's the gentleman that was achieving things. You know what I mean? That's what Kook Science can do for you, right there. So, being a transhumanist, I like to promote certain philosophical concepts. One of those philosophical concepts is Russian or Soviet cosmism. And here we go. What's the theory? Cosmism entailed a broad theory of natural philosophy combining elements of religion and ethics with history and philosophy of the origin, evolution, and the future existence of the cosmos and humankind. It combined elements from both Eastern and Western philosophic traditions, as well as from the Russian Orthodox Church. Cosmism was one of the influences of proletkult, and after the October Revolution, the term came to be applied to the poetry of such writers as Mikhail Gerasimov and Vladimir Krylov. Okay, representatives. Okay, wait, this is what you want to understand. Many ideas of the Russian cosmists were later developed by those in the transhumanist movement. Victor Skuman argues that the culture of health will play an important role in the creation of a human spiritual society into the solar system when we start to colonize space. Representatives Nikolai Fyodorov, 1828 to 1903, an advocate of radical life extension by means of scientific methods, human immortality, and resurrection of the dead. In 1881, Russian revolutionary and rocket pioneer Nikolai Kilabachik proposed an idea of pulsed rocket propulsion by combustion of exploded blah blah blah. These are representatives of cosmism. And this is the new sphere. This actually comes from the Phenomenon of Man by, what's his name? Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Cosmism and, Ivan developed the ideas of cosmism and has concluded that communism is a necessary structure of the future society. I actually agree with that, which wants to survive in space. The successor of the traditions of Ivan Yefremov was the geologist and sci-fi writer Alexander Shalamanov and astrophysicist Nikolai Alexandrovich Kosrygov. Gallery of Russian Cosmists. That's the Nikolai Fedorov, Konstantina, whatever. I don't read Russian too well, but there you go. Last but not least, I consider myself somewhat of a hybrid between a New England transcendentalist and a scientific pantheist. So what is transcendentalism? Transcendentalism is a philosophical movement that developed in the late 1820s and 1830s. Transcendentalism emerged from the English-German Romanticism, the biblical criticism of blah 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 origin. It was strongly influenced by Hindu texts on philosophy of the mind and spirituality, especially the Upanishads. Transcendentalism is closely related to Unitarianism, a religious movement in Boston in the early 19th century. It started to develop after Unitarianism took hold at Harvard University following the elections of Henry Ware as the holiest prophet. Transcendentalist Club, second wave of Transcendentalists by the late emerald. Let's see what their beliefs are. Transcendentalists are strong believers in the power of the individual. It is primarily concerned with personal freedom. Their beliefs are closely linked with those of the Romantics, but differ by an attempt to embrace, or at least to not oppose, the empiricism of science. And you shouldn't oppose the empiricism of science, you should embrace it. And I see myself somewhat as a hybrid of the two, scientific pantheism and New England transcendentalism. Transcendental knowledge, transcendentalists desire to ground their religion and their philosophy in principles based upon German Romanticism. Transcendentalism merged with English and German transcendentalism, the biblical criticism, blah, 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 French commentators, individualism. Transcendentalists believe that society and its institutions, particularly organized religion and political parties, corrupt the purity of the individual. They have faith that people are at their best when truly self-reliant. Even with the necessary individuality, transcendentalists also believe that all people are outlets for the oversoul, meaning they're outlets of God. Because the oversoul is one, this unites all people as one being. Emerson alludes to this concept in the introduction of the American Scholar Address, that there is one man present to all particular men. Indian religions, while firmly rooted in Western philosophical traditions and Platonism, Neoplatonism, and German idealism, transcendentalism was also directly influenced by Indian religions. Thoreau and Walden spoke of the transcendentalist debt to Indian religions directly. In the morning I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, since whose composition years of the gods have elapsed. 1844, the first English translation of the Lotus Sutra was included in the Dial, a publication of the New England Transcendentalists, translated from French. Idealism and transcendentalists differ in their interpretations of the practice and aims of will. Some adherents link it with utopian social change. For example, blah 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 blah. Okay. Importance of nature. This is very important. The importance of nature. Transcendentalists have a deep gratitude and appreciation for nature, not only for aesthetic purposes, but also as a tool to observe and understand the structured inner workings of the natural world. Emerson emphasizes the transcendental beliefs in the holistic power of the natural landscape in nature. In the woods we return to reason and faith. There I feel nothing can befall me in life. No disgrace, no calamity, which nature cannot repair. Standing on the bare ground with my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifting into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing, I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God. The conversation of the undisturbed natural world is also extremely important to transcendentalists. The idealism that is core belief of transcendentalism results in an inherent skepticism of capitalism, westward expansionism, and industrialization. Influence on other movements. Transcendentalism is in many aspects the first notable American intellectual movement. It has inspired succeeding generations of American intellectuals. It has inspired new thought, blah blah blah. Transcendentalism is also influenced by Hinduism, blah 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 blah. Major figures: Margaret Fuller, Ralph Waldo Emerson, of course, Henry David Thoreau, Amos Bronson, Louisa May Alcott, Charles Timothy Brooks. There we go. And that's all for this video. So, really, remember, faith alone will not save you. Faith that serves as the basis of a specific type of lifestyle that promotes longevity could save you.